I know no news, but you never mentioned the Al-Aqsa thing last night. Only gonna mention this once tonight. This is a pretty big day for Ramadan. I don't know what to talk about it beyond the fact that Israel's brutal occupying regime is fascist. As far as Israel goes, Israel has had a brutal occupying regime for a very long time. What they did recently is completely, I mean, even beyond unacceptable. Al-Aqsa is one of the most holiest sites for Muslims around the world. Like, this is like the second or third oldest standing Islamic site in the world, right? And it's in the middle of Ramadan, where people are praying. 200 plus Palestinians were wounded on Friday night when Israeli police fired rubber bullets at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. At least one lost an eye. They're throwing bombs at the Muslim worshippers, was what one of the victims said. Palestinians are protesting planned evictions of 30 plus families. There's a lot of planned evictions happening because Israeli settlers are trying to evict Palestinian families in occupied East Jerusalem. The United Nations says that may be a war crime. It literally is, okay? It's settler terrorism. That's the actual designation. What the IDF allows to happen, what the Israeli government literally used to turn a blind eye to, but now actively and deliberately advocates for, is settler terrorism. It is literally a fucking war crime. It is completely unacceptable. It is genocide. They are forcibly going into areas, territories that 100% without a fucking single shred of a doubt belong to Palestinians. Like, I'm not even talking about like Gaza. I'm not even talking about like Israel's brutal regime on Palestine. I'm not talking about like the entirety of Palestine being given back to like the Palestinian people or the Arabs. I'm not saying any of that. I'm talking like this is like literally on the furthest end of the spectrum. You could be the #1 defender of Israel and be like a huge fucking Zionist, and this is still completely unacceptable. We've talked about the apartheid, the vaccine apartheid that Israel has subjected the Palestinian people, which they have sovereignty over to. And then beyond that, they're just like forcibly fucking removing people from their homes so that they can bulldoze them and make nice parking lots. You know, this is what's going on. This has been going on for a very long time. It is straight up fascist. It is straight up fascist. This is this has always been an ongoing apartheid regime. This is the ugly side. Well, it's all ugly across the board, but this is the side that you don't actually normally see. Here's the video, the absolutely horrendous scenes from inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where Israeli forces attacked peaceful worshippers holding night prayers. They literally just like walk into this mosque where people are fucking praying. They just start blasting. Like it is like, this is like Dylan Roof shit. You understand? I mean, yeah, they're not using lethal rounds, but still. Imagine going into a church and just like fucking start ripping Christians. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if a Muslim country just like decided to go into a Christian church and start fucking blowing less than lethal rounds at them. Like, absolutely unacceptable. I mean, this is terrorism. This is fucking terrorism. What's happening here is terrorism through and fucking through, dude. And to top it off, it's Ramadan, the holy month for Islam. And to top it off, this is one of the holiest sites for Muslims. Yeah, it's like attacking Christians during Easter or Christmas in their church. The thing is, Netanyahu has been more and more militant year over year over year. I remember a time, maybe like 10, 15 years ago, where the occupation of the West Bank was considered completely unacceptable. And even the Israeli government would say stuff like, oh, yeah, that's happening. Please don't do that. We won't provide support and protection for you. But that was 15 fucking years ago. Now they straight up literally bulldoze. IDF will protect those bulldozers. They will straight up fucking go into Palestinian homes, evict Palestinians from their own. Imagine being ripped from your own fucking home. That's where you've lived your entire fucking life. I just want to draw a picture here for you because it's hard for you to comprehend. So some dudes just come into your fucking house and say, fuck you, fuck your grandmother, fuck your entire family that lives there, rip them out of your fucking house, bulldoze the goddamn house, and then build their own house. That's what's going on right now. Like, there is no other way to describe what is happening. And the Western world turns a fucking blind eye to this because America not only turns a blind eye to this, but low-key supports it. There's nothing you can do about it. The only way to do something about this is if you actually apply pressure to Israel, our greatest ally in the Middle East, withdraw any fucking support that you have from Israel on the condition that this Western occupation must end. We're not even talking about like moving towards a two-state solution. We're just straight up talking about like, please stop bulldozing fucking homes and like putting like Jewish settlers and Israeli settlers on Palestinian territory. This is what Americans did to Native Americans. This is the same shit. The difference is it's happening in fucking 4K in 2021 in front of all of our eyes. Israel is now, of course, selling leftover doses of their vaccines because you know, they did a really good job of vaccinating their people and purposely did not fucking you know, vaccinate the Palestinians that are again under Israeli sovereignty. They went so far as to even block certain vaccine shipments from coming in to Palestinian territories because it doesn't matter. Palestinian lives don't matter. It's just the truth. Israeli settler home theft is a continuation of the Zionist project, said a settler spokesperson, Sheikh Jarrah in Jerusalem. Is it at the Arabs' expense? Yes, but our government institutions were built at the expense of Arabs who lived here. So was the state itself.
We take house after house. All this area will be a Jewish neighborhood. We are not finished the job.
It's just straight up, they say it too. Like it's not like hidden. There is no justification for this beyond like saying that like this historically way back in the day this territory is supposed to be the Jews territory. It's like holy, so we have to take it. It's ridiculous. And the reality is it's no different than like how is this any different than what kind of religious justification like Al-Qaeda or fucking ISIS applies to their efforts in building an Islamic caliphate? I don't know. Well, the only difference is that it has legitimacy because it is a legitimate government and not just a militant entity. A legitimate government that gets arms and gets and builds their own arms as well and gets a lot of fucking funding and backing from the American government. That's the difference. So when this shit happens, they can get away with it. They can do this kind of fucking literal terrorism.
Our dream that all East Jerusalem will be like West Jerusalem, Jewish capital of Israel. אני רואה בזה המשך של המפעל היהודי-ציוני. המשך שיבת ציון. זה הכל. זה בא על חשבון הערבים? כן, גם בג"ץ והכנסת בנויים על חשבון ערבים, וגם המדינה כאן הוקמה, כן, על חשבון חלק מהתושבים הערבים שגרו פה.
These are human beings on the other side. Like, just remember, the people that they're talking about with so much disdain, like, imagine talking about ethnic cleansing in the most calm way possible, where he's just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, we're doing this. And the reason why we're doing this is because we don't give a fuck. Oh yeah, this was fucking insane. This was a Brooklyn dude straight up. I have a lot to say about this specifically. Here, we'll watch this video. This is an older video.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
it's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي.
It's nuts. It's just like, it's fucking absolutely fucking preposterous. This is, let me just say something. Okay, you know what this is? Look, Jewish people have been oppressed throughout history, okay, since the beginning of fucking time. So what this literally resembles is like Jewish people having like their white person moment. You know what I mean? Throughout the history of colonization, you've always had like the boy becoming a man, like by going to one of the fucking colonies and just like murdering a bunch of indigenous people and settling on that land. Like that's a passage for lords and that's a passage for like princes. They've always done this. They've done this throughout the history of colonization. And now it feels like if there is an international Jewish community, which there isn't, it's super dynamic. There's a million different there's so many different ethnicities. There's so many different like cultural differences, obviously. So when I'm saying like this feels like if I were to categorize like white people in a similar capacity, this is like some Jewish people being like, yeah, I'm gonna have my own white person moment. You know, I'm just gonna literally go to an indigenous population's land and just fuck shit up and take it for myself. This is colonization in action. If you want to understand more about the history of colonization, you can literally look to what is going on in Palestine and watch it happen in fucking 4K on TikTok, on all of these other outlets where this shit is happening currently. Like, he's just literally saying it. He's like, I have to steal it because if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it. And it's fucking my real estate. It's free real estate. I mean, maybe this motherfucker's actually like born and bred Israeli. Doesn't sound like it. I mean, I don't know. He straight up sounds like he's from fucking Brooklyn. Like I know homies that sound exactly like this dude. I have homies that sound exactly like this fucking dude.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the point?
Like, if I go, you don't go back. Like, that's literally, he's like, I'm back in fucking Rutgers. And like, the dude I went to school with is now in like occupied Palestinian territory. And he's like, no, I'm just going to take it. What the fuck's he doing there? You know what I mean? What are you doing here, bro? Like, what are you doing on a Palestinian woman's like actual fucking house? Like, what the fuck are you doing in their backyard? And like, you're just sitting there and you're like, I'm going to take it. And you can't fucking retaliate, because if you retaliate, and whenever people do retaliate, they retaliate with rocks. Okay. They can't do shit. So they throw fucking rocks and then they get killed. Okay. Then you get the IDF up your fucking asshole, all of their goddamn weapons and missiles and tanks and whatever the fuck they want to. They protect the bulldozers, and then that's it. Like, it's just, you're done. You can't do anything. The Israeli military will come in and fuck you up. Just imagine that for a second, okay? When I was growing up in Hebrew school, we were taught that Palestine isn't real, and that it's just a bunch of terrorists. A lot of Jews are now waking up. I'm anti-Zionist and I'm a Jew. I've been called a self-hating Jew, and even have had people threaten me after debating and realizing that they cannot defend genocide. If you're a progressive Jew, the arguments that you will hear from like people defending Israel's actions will resemble the arguments that you hear from fucking conservative chuds, because conservatism and being a chud is the same. That's universal. So you slowly but surely start to recognize, like, oh shit, what they're fucking saying, what they're saying and doing here is no different than, absolutely no fucking different than what American conservatives do when they're defending like America's actions in Iraq, for example. Joe Biden, of course, has always been historically unapologetic about giving as much as much unconditional support to Israel as possible. That's always been the thing. So what do you think about the U.S. interfering in this stuff? If the U.S. decides to take action against Israel, wouldn't that be continuing the trend of the U.S. being the world police? The U.S. interference in this circumstance could literally revolve around refusing to interfere. You get that, right? There's a difference between like interfering and playing world police. I mean, this is here. Stop this.
I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. Again,
Straight up self-report, boys. There's nothing else that you need to hear. Like, listen, when you get confident, when it is so normal to say things like this because you don't expect any backlash, they say it. How does he have more hair? It's called hair plugs. I love this. Good thing you told people to vote for him. Yeah, no, you're right. Because Donald Trump, a second term under Donald Trump would have been certainly much better for the Palestinians. You dumb, white, Iowa leftist on the internet, LARPing as a fucking revolutionary with your hammer and sickle Twitter account, you stupid motherfucker. The entire reason why the American embassy was moved to Jerusalem and this like action against Palestinians in Jerusalem is now legitimized is because of the Trump administration and what fucking Mike Pompeo, that Fred Flintstone looking evangelical fuck, did directly in Israel. Shut the fuck up, dude. Shut up. Remove yourself from these sorts of conversations if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, okay? And back then I said, vote for Hillary Clinton as well, by the way, because I don't think, and I don't give a fuck what you have to say, I don't think that what happened in Jerusalem would have happened under Hillary Clinton's administration. She fucking destroyed Libya. I know that, but I do not believe that the actions that Donald Trump, I believe that the actions that Donald Trump took were unique to Donald Trump. So we talked about this. We talked about like the impact of settler colonialism, settler terrorism, or not settler colonialism, just like Israeli colonialism. It's straight up the fucking same. I don't give a fuck how many goddamn TwitPic accounts that are going to come out and be like, sorry, I'm a bisexual anxiety disorder Israeli Jew, and what you're talking about here is actually different. Like, here is why it's dangerous to compare like white colonialism to Israeli colonialism. It's like, I don't give a fuck, dude. You can write as many stupid ass fucking infographics as you can. There's no justifying this, okay? It's like literally saying that Oliver North was having a real fucking girl boss moment when he sold weapons to Iran, and then he was actually allowing brown people to liberate themselves and the Contras are technically still you know, Latin, there's still like Latinx people. So what he was doing was actually good for both countries and their autonomy. You can try to fucking paint these sorts of arguments left and right with the assumption that that like this is actually helping the Latinx around the world, like by just having this like borderline IDPOL focused fucking approach to this conversation without ever touching on the impacts and without talking about who you're fucking harming. Yeah. The El Mozote massacre was actually done to protect the interests, okay? Here's why calling Latin American or Nicaraguan death squads is problematic. A thread. What you can do to help the Contras. A thread. If this is all you fucking learned, then you hear about like brown people getting guns and you're like, maybe this is good. You know, because it's so easy to fucking dupe well-intentioned dumbass liberals with like a little bit of fucking woke language peppered in that is straight up the opposite of the values that they fucking espouse. Okay, arguing against no one. I'm not even arguing against someone. I'm saying that like this is something that happens, and you know, the Israeli social media accounts are fucking excellent at this shit. Like excellent. They will literally fucking straight up be like, well, here's why you're anti-Semitic. Like, here's why it's harmful to talk about the actions of Israel in the same framework of like white colonizers of the past. Why? Why the fuck is it harmful? Explain to me why it's harmful beyond saying that it's like they should have this land. Chat, please don't take this as an opportunity to be anti-Semitic to Jews in your life. I'm already getting spam free Palestine on posts about my Shabbat. I'm just Jewish. I don't like what an Israeli government's doing. Please. Yeah, I know. That's another fucking part of this conversation too, which is like, stop fucking grouping all Jews together as though they are like 100% in support of fucking the actions of Israel, okay? Chill the fuck out. Because Jews are minorities and calling them white eliminates that? You wouldn't tell anyone how to define what they find offensive or what they are? No, my friend. I'm literally doing that, okay? I'm literally doing that. It doesn't matter if you're the fucking minority. If you're behaving like a fucking fascist state against other marginalized people that you are subjecting to incredible harm and brutality, and I say you're a fucking colonizer and you're behaving like a white colonizer, but in fucking 4K in 2021, you get more fucking hopped up on the fact that I'm making a comparison to white people rather than the brutality that these people are subjecting others to, then you are no different than the conservative hog that turns around and says, it's not the racism that offends me, it's being called a racist, brother. You're just doing that with a different coat of paint, okay? Straight up. Tell me more about how the minority of whites are being oppressed in the country of South Africa, right? You think this is our fucking first rodeo with an apartheid regime? You think another one wasn't dismantled and still has centuries of fucking oppression baked into their systems right in front of our eyes? I mean, we live in America. That's pretty fucking racist. But then also think about South Africa. Literally the same exact shit as Israel, okay? Just apartheid. Straight up, through and through. Exactly the fucking same. Just go back and look to the South African whites and their arguments originally, who literally fucking sided with the fascists, and we sided with them because they were fascist and because they were anti-communist, by the way. But that's a whole separate issue. When I say we, I mean America. And look to their arguments, and you will recognize that those arguments are exactly the same as what like the Zionists, the arguments that Zionists make now. I'm gonna keep it 100, dude. Maybe it's because I'm Turkish, but I do not give a single fucking shred of a fuck about like offending certain people's sensibilities if they come at me as though like identity in this circumstance is a good shield to pull up. I mean, I know that like a lot of reactionaries bastardize that sort of criticism, or rather weaponize like legitimate criticisms launched against people using the aesthetics-focused identity politics as a fucking shield. Like conservatives love using reactionary rhetoric and like using that to attack marginalized communities. But sorry, if you believe in a fucking Jewish ethno state that has to fucking exist, and it comes at the cost of like millions of Palestinians' lives, their homes, all of that shit, then you're a fascist, dude. It doesn't matter what your background is. As Noam Chomsky said in the occupied territories, what Israel is doing is much worse than the apartheid. The South African nationalists needed the black population. That was their workforce. The Israeli relationship to the Palestinians in the occupied territories is totally different. They don't want them. They just want them out. They want them purged. They want them cast aside. Anyway, you can write all the fucking essays you want. It will fall on deaf ears, motherfucker. Straight up. So that's like the main news story of the day. Obviously, hundreds have been injured at the Al-Aqsa Mosque the third most holy site for Muslims worldwide. The tensions have escalated to a point where like Israeli forces is just like, it seems like they're just testing out how much brutality they can get away with day in, day out, as Netanyahu's militancy towards the Palestinians gets worse and worse every single day. And seemingly there is no retaliation from the international community whatsoever. So without any sort of backlash from the international community, they are, of course, seeing whatever the fuck they can get away with. I think like internal pressures from Netanyahu's like personal corruption case that's ongoing and whatnot has caused them to crank it up a notch. I mean, that's like the problem on its face. That's like the immediate issue. Palestinians stone Israeli car which crashes as Jerusalem seethes. Are you fucking kidding me, Reuters? God damn, I can't even show you that because of the fucking, there's like blood in the footage in the thumbnail. But that is a fucking gross depiction of events as a settler terrorist literally committed an act of fucking terror and drove into Palestinians. That is so disgusting. And then the Israeli Defense Forces immediately surrounded him and defended him so he could get away freely. What's most disappointing is how the UAE and Saudi officials are not being super quiet about it. Are you fucking kidding me? Of course they're being super quiet about it. They're fucking cowards. They're assholes, especially Saudi Arabia. No one gives a fuck about Palestinians, dude. Every Muslim leader in the world that fucking claims they care about Palestine is a liar. Like, they actually don't care about Palestine. They're just using that as a talking point to, like, you know, finger wag at Israel every now and then, to drum up a base of support, and also to maybe use that as like maybe use it as a geopolitical advantage in the long run by you know, securing better contracts with America or Israel or all these other countries. Even Iran is the fucking only country, I guess, because they have no way to benefit from Western interference. Yes, assuming all Jews are Zionists is actually anti-Semitic, despite the fact that unironically the ADL and other organizations that are Zionist will turn around and be like, a criticism of Israel could be, in many circumstances, the criticism of the Israeli state is anti-Semitic, while it is straight up fucking anti-Semitic to say that like all Jews care about Israel in the same way and are Zionists. That's anti-Semitic, which it actually is. But the inverse of that is routinely done by those who claim to care about anti-Semitism. This struggle has gone on for forever, pretty much. A lot of the settler terrorism, the instances I've shown on this broadcast in the past week, over the past weekend, they are from 2009. They're from the leadership of the Obama administration, the oversight of the Obama administration. Throughout contemporary Israeli history, Israel has become more and more brutal towards Palestinians and further justified occupying and settling on the West Bank, Palestinian territory. Jew settlers are actually so fucking bad, it makes me feel sick. It's insane that evangelicals are more pro-Israel than American Jews, me, and that Netanyahu is still in power. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. American evangelical Christian psychopaths are the biggest funders of Israeli cruelty, like 100%. There is a very deliberate reason for it, and that reason is literally insane, for the record. The reason why American evangelicals offer unconditional support to the IDF and the state of Israel and all of its actions literally is because they hope that the end of times is going to come if the chosen sons of God take over that holy land, and that is Jews, okay? And then all the Jews are sent there, and then the rapture happens, and the wonderful evangelicals, all those fucking psychopathic passes and shit, get sucked up into the space. This is all real, by the way. Like, I'm not even kidding. This is at the heart of why the American white evangelical Protestant community has unconditional support for Israel. That's why when you go to like Texas, or you go to fucking Louisiana or some shit, you'll see like bumper stickers with like a thin blue line, and then on the side of the thin blue line bumper sticker you have like a fucking Israeli flag. You're like, what the fuck? Like, what's happening? what is happening here in Louisiana? And yeah, it's and the reason for that is because they want to build out a Jewish ethno-state in that region, so that Jesus Christ can come back to Earth and have like this fucking battle, duke it out with Satan, and they all get sucked up into the heavens because they're the good God-fearing Christians, the only real ones. And of course, by the way, if the Jews that went to Israel don't convert to evangelical Christianity, like their form of Christianity, they burn in hell too. So like, it's not a fucking pro-Jewish person agenda. Ultimately, in their worldview, like if you're a Jew, you die. You are destined for eternal damnation and hell. It's kind of like a convenient first step that where your goals are aligned or your goals are unified for the time being. Propaganda here is awful. People are saying that Gaza fired rockets because it's Jerusalem Day. Most people are unaware of what happened at Al-Aqsa. Not only are most people unaware of what happened at fucking Al-Aqsa, but also Jerusalem Day is literally fucking Israeli ultra-nationalist, like psychopathic chuds celebrating overtaking Jerusalem, dude. The entire holiday revolves around like ultra-nationalist Israelis running rampant through the fucking streets more so than they normally would to celebrate fucking taking Jerusalem. And you know, people were very fearful that they were going to beat the shit out of like Palestinians more so than they normally do. Great, dude. I too love celebrating my fucking ethnic cleansing genocide holiday. An incredibly important cause for celebration there. I mean, we do have Thanksgiving. Exactly. The difference, of course, with Thanksgiving is that like, and not that this justifies it, but the difference, of course, with Thanksgiving is that like, we're celebrating a bastardized version of events, whereas like the Native American population here, the indigenous population here has been thoroughly cleansed, okay? Thoroughly ethnically cleansed, whereas the current occupation and the genocide is ongoing, and it's like if on Thanksgiving Day we literally went to like Native American reservations and like beat the shit out of some Native American people, and we're like, yeah, I'm taking this fucking casino or whatever, you know what I mean? And we kind of do that already. We don't just like directly beat the shit out of the Native Americans, but you know, we'll put pipelines through their territories and shit and ruin their fucking natural water supply. But that's kind of what is similar, if there's like more of a personal element to it. A lot of progressive Jews in America are either unaware of all this or have only heard about the situation in Israel from their parents. So their opinion on the occupation is either like clouded by ultranationalist sentiment from their conservative parents, or you know, brainwashed through propaganda, or they're just like oblivious and they don't know. So there is a big blind spot for some progressive American Jews who are like, well, anti-Semitism is a real thing. I see that you're criticizing people here, and I don't really appreciate it. It seems like you're being anti-Semitic, when no, I also very carefully use my words when I'm talking about this sort of stuff. I am going to watch this. I already listened to him earlier today on Democracy Now! Remember the video that we showed on the broadcast like a couple days ago of the Jewish guy from Brooklyn, like literally straight out of Brooklyn, who was like, I have to live here. I have to steal this, otherwise someone else will steal it. Like, he literally used those terms. The lady on the other side, the Palestinian lady who's like, no, you don't have to steal my fucking house. That lady is this guy's sister. They talk in more detail about that situation on Democracy Now! As well. Let's watch this. This is incredibly rare. Like, hearing an actual fucking straight up Palestinian person give any kind of airtime on an American network and openly describing the occupation to an American audience is incredibly rare. He's a poet and a writer. He's like, I think 23 or 22 years old.
The third time for my father, who's 76 years old. My grandmother died a few months ago, and this would have been her fifth time getting her home stolen by Israeli settlers. And it breaks me to say this, but I am glad she is dead, not to have to deal with the anxiety and sleeplessness and indignity and violence of the Israeli settlers and Israel. And in truth, this is the reality for thousands and thousands of Palestinians. This is just one part of a larger effort to take over Palestine and erase all Palestinian presence from our native city. Life is unbearable right now for us.
I'm curious to get your thoughts, though. What are you hoping a Biden administration will do differently than a Trump administration or this outgoing Trump administration? Do you think there will be a difference?
No, I'm not hoping for much. And let me tell you why. In 2009, when the Israelis took over our home the first time, they did so under the Obama administration with Joe Biden as a VP. And then the second reason why I don't have much hope and very skeptical of a Biden administration is because, not because the Palestinian people have a problem with Biden per se, but because Biden and Obama and Trump are just an acceleration of an outstanding unconditional and long-standing American support for Israel that has never been questioned.
Let me ask you about the international community's role in all this, because another headline today was the U.S. Secretary of State saying that BDS, the movement of boycott, divestment, and sanctions to try and end the occupation in the West Bank, is anti-Semitic. What do you think?
I love that, dude. I love that, by the way. Number one advocates for freedom of speech are conservatives in this country, and conservatives have slowly but surely pushed some of the most insane anti-free speech legislation, especially in southern states. That's why if I have any like teachers or whatever in my chat from a southern state, they will tell you, you have to literally sign a fucking, even if you're a fucking teacher in middle school, they make you sign a fucking statement that you will never support boycott, divest, and sanctions on the state of Israel in fucking Texas. What the fuck? I'm a middle school teacher in Texas. Why the fuck do I have to sign this? And how in the ever-loving fuck is that allowed as far as being like a piece of legislation from the same dudes that will literally lose their minds if you actually engage in hate speech, which BDS is not, okay? It's not hateful. It is literally the exact same movement tailored from the original boycott, divestments, and sanctions movement against apartheid South Africa. And it is bipartisan support, of course. It has bipartisan support across the board, usually. IDF entered the Temple Mount because stones were thrown on Jews praying in the Western Wall from it. It's important to mention. Yeah, dude, you're right. I think they should murder everyone. You're right, dude. They should literally just wipe it out, right? That's not important to mention, you fucking little shit. I hate these motherfuckers that try to like both sides it. Oh, really? Oh, so then they should get fucking skunked out with the fucking high pressure water cannons that literally have this disgusting water in it, specifically so you smell bad for like a fucking week and your entire neighborhood smells like shit because the Israeli forces said that someone threw a fucking rock, dude. I guess, you know, you start bombing and using bullets then, which is unironically the justification. It is fucking insane. When Hamas bombs Jerusalem, it's okay and Israel doesn't have the right to do anything against it, right? Brother, if you want to stop people from fucking rocketing your homes and shit, one quick and immediate way to solve that problem, which is a fucking problem, certainly, is to literally stop occupying a territory and operating the largest open world prison on the fucking planet. I don't know. That's a pretty good way to fucking avoid that, I think. That's one way to start that conversation, is to not fucking literally engage in an act of colonizing. Another thing you can fucking do is offer opportunities, and regardless of what you do, though, another thing that you always shouldn't do is to assume like, oh, okay, so there's a terror cell here, or there's a militant group here, okay? They threw rockets. Well, time to fucking wipe out every Palestinian. That is psychotic. That is racist. That is ethnic cleansing, okay? Operating with that mentality is the absolute exact same way to operate against black people, and white supremacists did that for a very long time and still do, by the way. Inherently, you are no different than a fucking alt-right Nazi shithead when you turn around and you make that justification for bombing the fuck out of Gaza, or even worse, I mean, that's pretty fucking bad, but then also the territorial expansion of the Western Bank. I don't know where to begin to take apart that take. Everyone's worried about stopping terrorism. Well, there's a really easy way. Stop participating in it. Yeah, that is an easy way. Would it be off to say the Zionists are acting fascist? No, they are. It is fascist. It is a ethno-state project that is fucking fascist. I've never backed away from saying that. I think what Israel is doing is fascist. Absolutely. Settler terrorism is fascist.
But
it's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
Motherfucker, you literally flew from Brooklyn to Palestinian territory and took over a house, dude. A part of a house. Like, I didn't do this is such a fucking insane take. Who did it, dude? Who did it then? You did. Yeah, he is. He's from Brooklyn, dude. Yeah, but where's that guy gonna stay, bro? I don't know. Go to fuck back to Brooklyn, you piece of shit. How about that? Is that a good... Hey, guys, is that a good argument? I know some of you are like, where will that guy go? I know you're like genuinely worried. Motherfucker from Brooklyn is over here like, I'm occupying over here. What do you want me to do? Come on. Come on. I need this. I need this. This is my house now. Like, yeah, we gotta fucking, you know, I don't know. Where do we Put that guy, dude. Who knows? Wait, they're just allowed to walk into someone's house and say it's theirs now and get the family out? Yes. Muhammad was talking about his personal experience, okay? They will literally just walk into your house and sit in your fucking living room and be like, this is my house now. And if you have anything to say about it, if you're like, no, if you ever take violent action and try to defend your own home, your family's home, the Israeli Defense Force will come in and fucking arrest you and murder you. That's it. Okay, they'll torture you, they'll arrest you, they'll murder the fuck out of you. They'll take you to a Jewish court where the deck is completely stacked against you, especially considering that Israel used to turn a blind eye to the settler expansion over the course of the past 20 years, though, especially with Netanyahu increasing his militancy and his reactionary rhetoric against the Palestinians and justifying all of this untold cruelty that the Israeli government subjects them to. They went from, oh, it's happening, but like, I don't know, I guess it's happening, fuck, to literally sending bulldozers and protecting those bulldozers with IDF forces and straight up fucking participating in the territorial expansion. It is one of the worst ongoing human rights abuses that the entire Western world looks away at. Or rather, every now and then, the United Nations will like wag their fucking finger at Israel, and then literally every American conservative Jewish mouthpiece will turn around and be like, I can't believe the fucking anti-Semitism of the United Nations. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. Like Ben Shabibo is a perfect example of this, who just loses his fucking mind anytime. Like literally anytime Israel is criticized, like, well, what about China? It's like, okay, what about China, motherfucker? Sure, criticize China too. Oh, here, I wanted to show you this. Rockets fired at Jerusalem, hundreds are hurt in clashes at Al-Aqsa Mosque. Here is how the New York Times edited their article. The police entered the compound and fired rubber-tipped bullets. Anger was already building in response to the looming expulsion of several Palestinian families from their homes in the city. I guess they took that part out, but also I wanted to show you this. Evictions in Jerusalem become focus of Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The efforts to evict 6 Arab families from a contested neighborhood has drawn attention from the Israeli effort to remove Palestinians from parts of East Jerusalem and led the protests. This kind of passive language is something that you see when mainstream media routinely covers police executions, right? Like they will always say clashes broke out, or as though there's like both sides of this fucking conflict or argument, okay? There is no both sides. They're forcibly removing people from their houses in an effort to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from an area. Like there is no like evictions. These aren't like fucking landlords, even though that in and of itself is still very gross and very inhumane. But no, it's people who are literally going in and taking other people's homes. And the only claim that they have to this territory or this region is a religious one. And that's it. AOC finally voices support for Palestine. She says, we stand in solidarity with the Palestinian residents of Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem. Israeli forces are forcing families from their homes during Ramadan and inflicting violence. It is inhumane, and the U.S. must stop. We must show leadership in safeguarding the human rights of Palestinians. This is the same from wherever you are. It's the same as like the American government supporting the Colombian government in its endeavors of violently suppressing protests in Colombia over policies that will disproportionately harm the working poor. And it's the same with our approach to Israel as well. Look at what Israel's doing with the Polish immigrants. They're bringing Polish Jews into Israel to occupy more Palestinian land. A horrible situation. That's the other part about this, is that like fascists collaborate with one another. There is always international collaboration amongst fascists, right? You have people like Viktor Orban, or you have people like fucking Bolsonaro. People like Viktor Orban, who himself is like literally anti-Semitic, hugging and kissing people like fucking Netanyahu because they have a unified goal. It's the same shit that I described to you. It's the same thing that I described to you with white evangelical Protestant Christians, right? Like they don't give a fuck about the Jews ultimately, but they want somewhere where they can expel them. They want the Jews to leave and go somewhere else. Okay, they're just like, yeah, great. Have your fucking ethno state somewhere far away from me. That'll be a fucking barrier state to deal with all the Muslims, and I don't want to deal with the Muslims anyway. So, you know, get the fuck away from me and go to that ethno state in the middle of the fucking desert. And if you're gonna kill Arabs while you're doing that, fuck yeah, totally on board. These motherfuckers aren't like pro-Jew in any way. They're literally anti-Semitic, but they align with the goals of Bibi Netanyahu. I wonder why. The mosque is now on fire, if I'm not mistaken. This is happening during Ramadan, the holiest month for Muslims. It's also happening during one of the holiest nights and days of Ramadan. And here are some Israeli settlers dancing and celebrating as the courtyard of Al-Aqsa is on fire this evening. I mean, this reminds me of like the dudes who fucking... I remember the images of like Israelis that fucking perched up on hilltops to watch snipers and fucking tanks and rocket fire with binoculars all the way back in like 2014. You know, they were celebrating that shit with like actual popcorn. Great. Like, how the fuck do you think this is going to end up? What do you think happens here? If you are being removed from your home, when you are forced to live in under this brutal thumb of an occupation, you know what it's like? It's like the fucking the tiki torch Nazis at Charlottesville. Imagine if like you literally, as a person of color, or you literally had to live under their occupation. Okay, like all the time. All the time. They just they're just brutalizing you. They're removing you from your fucking houses. They're bulldozing your shit, and then they just like now live in your home. And then you go to a place of solace and comfort and want to have solidarity with other people that are going through similar things, you know, in the holy month that you believe in. You don't need to fucking believe in Islam, or you don't need to believe in any of that shit. But ultimately, like, these are people that are looking for solace. And in your holy place, in one of the holiest months, the tiki torch motherfuckers come in and like gas you. They fucking... They beat the shit out of you. They gas you. They have all the power that they have all the power. You have none of the power. What do you do? What can you do as a way to defend yourself? What can you do as a way to retaliate? Like, you can't do anything. But what do you expect? When you back people into a corner and you fucking subject them to endless amounts of cruelty, they're gonna fucking fight back. Do you think large third-scale party intervention is necessary to start the process of making a viable one-state solution? I think the most important third-party intervention has to come from pulling out the unconditional support that we currently give to Israel in the form of $3.8 billion. The last thing I wanted to talk about is another incredible Ben Shabibo. Israel goes through a decades-long legal process to adjudicate whether families who have been illegally squatting in Jewish-owned homes ought to be evicted. Fatah and Hamas precede the riot, actively aid terror attacks and fire rockets. The international community blames Israel. What an incredible way to approach this issue, once again, from the brilliant mind of Ben Shabibo. The things I want to say here are, I mean, this kind of take lends itself to an immediate Holocaust comparison, and that is a big no-no, so I'm not going to do that. But it is literally, it is that, for the record. This is trying to whitewash the Holocaust. Like, it is not dissimilar to that, where you're just like, oh, well, you know, it was a removal or an extraction, which, by the way, Ben Shapiro personally has in the past advocated for a final solution. Literally a final solution of shipping all the Palestinians from the land that they were born into. It's like saying, no, it was just illegal to be Jewish in Germany at the time. Yeah, incredible stuff. Here's the bottom line. If you believe that the Jewish state has a right to exist, then you must allow Israel to transfer the Palestinians and the Israeli Arabs from Judea, Samaria, and Gaza and Israel proper. It's an ugly solution, but it's the only solution. Some might even say it's the final solution. And it is far less ugly than the prospect of bloody conflict ad infinitum. Yeah, one quick, precise surgical removal of all Palestinians, and all of a sudden, you don't have any more bloodshed. That's the beauty of genocide, folks. That's how it works. You do it one time, it's very bloody, and then you never do it again. Oh, this is another one where the headlines about Jerusalem, clashes between Palestinians and Israeli police at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, are absolute misinformation. The clashes are Fatah and Hamas organized riots in which terrorists use Al-Aqsa as a staging point to attack police for the drooling media. Yeah, you know, terror attacks like praying in the holy month of Ramadan, and staging protests for forcible evictions of Palestinians from their homes in occupied territory. You know, it's you know, that sort of like the real terrorism is protesting your people being fucking removed from their homes. That's the real terrorism, is protesting that act and not the act itself. Just bow down to terrorist, Hamas, Omega lol. Yeah, dude, because again, and I know I said I moved on from this conversation, but if you have a baby brain and you think like, well, bad people are bad because they're bad, and good people are good because they're good, and Israel good and Palestinian bad, then yes, of course you're going to have this kind of approach, not recognizing the reason why people fucking literally fight back, or the reason why people operate in this capacity is going to allow you to live a very comfortable life of ignorance. Assume that, like, people are just doing terrorism because they're bad people and want to do bad things. Yeah, this was devastating. But yeah, Israelis watch bombs drop on Gaza from front row seats. I remember seeing this, like, fucking the Sidrat cinema. Israelis bringing chairs to hilltops and watch the ladies from Gaza clapping back when blasts are heard. Like, there's like little babies getting fucking caught up under, babies catching fucking shrapnel and shit. And meanwhile, on the other side, they're like clapping and excited at the prospect. Goes to show you that it is kind of one-sided. I mean, it is. One side of the conflict has all the guns and all the weapons and all the power, and the other side has nothing. They have fucking shitty ass, like, homemade fucking rockets that they try to launch in retaliation. The existence of Hamas does not justify the brutality that every single innocent Palestinian is subjected to. Okay, it does not. If it worked like that, then you would hear motherfuckers be like, yeah, no, just fucking genocide Israel then, because of the actions of the IDF and the structured government that they have and the systemic ethnic cleansing that they're subjecting the Palestinians to. Okay, it doesn't work that way. You're ridiculous. The Israeli government and those in positions of power in Israel love the existence of Hamas. Okay, they love it. It's like when America needs ISIS or other enemies in the Middle East to continue justifying their oppression and to justify their brutality. It's just so easy. And then idiots like those in the chat will turn around and be like, oh, hell yeah, dude. Yeah, that's why Israel has to do whatever it can, dude. Come on. We can think about it. Like, see, this is what I mean when I say, okay. I saw this. Jews will not replace us, right? Chilling echoes of Charlottesville, this person says. And Elon Levy says, Jews will not replace us. Motherfucker, don't you realize that, like, the replacement that they are criticizing is literally Jews saying we will replace you? Almost every single fucking counter launched against Palestinians by Israelis or Jewish people in, like, other parts of the fucking world, whenever they defend the actions of the IDF, or whenever they defend the horrific brutality that Israel subjects Palestinians to, it's so fucking insane because it sounds like you're criticizing Israel. I'm being semi-facetious, but only semi. On the left, people who think Jews have no right to live in Israel. On the right, people who think they have no right to live in the U.S. A rock and a hard place aren't necessarily the same thing, but they're linked. Is so fucking garbage, dude. What a garbage take. Again, all of the rhetoric that you hear from colonizers that justify their continued oppression unironically sounds exactly like fucking, why is there no white privilege month or a white pride month? Why is there no straight pride month? Why is there no fucking the real problem is you calling me a racist and not the racist actions itself. Yeah, equality feels like oppression to the privileged. Exactly. Oh my fucking Lord, dude. Can you imagine just a worse fucking take? I'm standing with the people of Israel who are coming under bombardment attacks and condemn the Hamas terrorists. The people of New York City will always stand with our brothers and sisters in Israel who face down terrorism and persevere. Listen, dude. I mean, he had a good gimmick with the fucking UBI, okay? I mean, throwing this fucking hard is crazy. Ted Cruz retweeted him. Nice, dude. Nice. And this guy will probably win too. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Immediately after, like, 9 babies were murdered by the Israeli state. Like 9 Palestinian children were fucking murdered by the Israeli state. This guy wrote that. Look who agrees with him. Stephen Miller. Andrew Yang is exactly right. Ilhan Omar is outrageously wrong. Wow. That's crazy. Andrew Yang is close to locking down almost universal support among leaders of New York City's ultra-Orthodox community, a loyal block of voters that can make or break a mayoral candidate. Huh. Interesting, dude. Let's look at who agrees with Andrew Yang. Stephen Miller. Ian Miles wrong. Meghan McCain. Hashtag Yang Gang. Ted Cruz. Bravo to Yang for opposing the rabidly pro-Hamas and anti-Israel attacks from fellow Dams Omar and Tlaib. I mean, I think he was always like this, for the record. Like, he was always like this. It's not, like, fucking new. You guys already know I was never, like, a big fucking Yang Gang fan and have been critical of him from the jump. Welcome to the fucking right side of the Yang shit. Absolutely fuck Andrew Yang, okay? Absolutely motherfuck Andrew Yang, a gigantic piece of shit who is so fucking So desperate. First of all, this is America, okay? So nearly every single fucking American politician is always going to give unconditional aid to Israel, okay? Most of them do. That's just the reality. It's our most important strategic asset / ally in the Middle East, all of that sort of stuff. They're fucking murdering Muslims, so that's like, you know, cherry on the top. Even most of the Democrat adjacent, like liberal adjacent people are at least politically savvy enough not to come out and offer unconditional support to Israel when they're literally, when the fucking corpses of Palestinian children have not even fucking dried yet. Like, that is fucking bloodthirsty, maniacal shit. Most Democrats will just say, yeah, BDS is bad. I don't want to touch it. Whatever. Israel is incredibly important for us as an ally. But like, this level of pandering is so fucked up. He's must be real fucking desperate.
I'm asking if you think that the principle of self-defense applies to the retaliatory the airstrikes that they're conducting in response.
Matt, this is a very fluid situation. I would hesitate to comment on operations beyond, you know, the rocket fire that is clearly targeting innocent civilians in Israel. So
I'm confused. So you do have a fucking statement, and that statement is on Israeli self-defense / the only side of this that is inappropriate is like the rocket fire from the Palestinians towards Israel. Got it.
Talk about what you said about the principle of self-defense. Does that in any way apply to the Palestinian? Do they have a right to self-defense?
In broadly speaking, Saeed, we believe in the concept of self-defense. We believe it applies to any state. I don't think that.
Oh, very interesting. Why is it again? That's crazy. So Israel has a right to self-defense. Palestine, well, it's not a state technically, so yikes. No right to self-defense. Sorry.
I certainly wouldn't want my words to be construed as.
This pussy is too afraid to be like, yeah, Palestinians of course have a right to self-defense. You know? Yeah, nice, dude.
You know, the Israelis killed 13 people just now. You know, including maybe 5 or 6 children. Do you condemn that? Do you condemn the killing of children? I'm asking, do you condemn the killing of Palestinian children?
Obviously, and these reports are just emerging, and I understand, I was just speaking to the team, I understand we don't have independent confirmation of facts on the ground yet, so I'm very...
Yeah, no. The accuracy of the data that we're getting from on the ground is just, is questionable and debatable. You can't fucking say killing children is bad, dude. What? Dude, what are these things, dude? What is going on in Sheikh Jarrah? The problem, Sheikh Jarrah, Shimon HaTzadik, is a neighborhood in Jerusalem that is dealing with property disputes over real estate ownership. This conflict is not between the Israeli government and Palestinian leaders, but rather private citizens who have been fighting in court. What kind of court, I might ask? Oh, an Israeli court? That's interesting. Let's not even talk about that part of it. Whose land is this? Whose homes are these? Oh, Palestinian homes. Okay, well, I guess it's just a dispute amongst landlords and tenants, except the landlords are the ones who are being fucking evicted by people who have decided they're tenants now. Motherfucker made Instagram graphics. The trigger, this is a legal situation between the Jews with real estate rights pre the establishment of Israel in 1948, whose homes and property was stolen from them when Jordan occupied Jerusalem. Under this foreign occupation, their land was managed as enemy assets by the Jordanian government. The stolen land was given to Arab civilians who have inhabited it for decades. Wow, yeah, totally. What is going on? Why things got worse? In recent weeks, the tension rose around this real estate fight as several individual Israelis, including the one radical right-wing politician Itamar Ben-Gvir, arrived in the neighborhood. Think Marjorie Taylor Greene hopping in to stir up the drama. I love the fucking the Instagram language, and I also love the progressive Jew take on Israel's actions. By the way, oh, it's just a real estate conflict. You know, there's some bad guys out there as well on the right-wing reactionary side of Israel. Those are different, though. Like, this is a normal conflict. Tomorrow night kicks off Jerusalem Day in Israel. It's an Israeli national holiday commemorating the reunification of Jerusalem and the establishment of Israeli control over the old city. Literally a fucking ultra-nationalist celebration where far-right Israelis walk around and fuck shit up. It's literally like a celebration of the occupation. What an interesting fucking approach to that. But very progressive language, so that's cool. These are all emotional, national, and religious days for both Palestinians and Israelis. Also, this week, courts will decide on the Sheikh Jarrah Shimon HaTzadik legal dispute. Everything is very emotionally charged. Why are you hearing about this Jerusalem neighborhood? Well, the media, looking for traffic, is preparing readers to be very angry in the next few days. outrage, war, and nationalism sells, and this is a perfect storm for all three. Are there heroes and villains in the story? No, because like every ethno-religious dispute, no side is 100% the villain. No, come on, dude. Think about all the ethno-religious disputes. Come on, there's no 100% the villain side, dude. But both the Arab Muslim residents and the Jewish residents have a legitimate claim to the land. Wow, that's crazy. The answer to this dispute will be decided by the Israeli Supreme Court, which has a sitting Arab justice in it. So like when fucking Jacob from Brooklyn flew out from Brooklyn to Jerusalem to literally take over forcibly a part of a Palestinian's home, and then was called out for it and said, if I don't steal this, someone else will steal it from you. So let me steal it instead. It's not my fault that this is happening. He's actually holding on to a legitimate stake, a legitimate claim, a legitimate ownership, despite the fact that all he's known is Brooklyn before this. Pretty cool. Very interesting. What's going on in Sheikh Jarrah? Death of Israelis and Palestinian teenagers. As a reaction to the conflict in his neighborhood, Israeli teenager Yehuda Gutta was gunned down on Sunday this week by a 44-year-old Palestinian terrorist while walking down the street. Two of his friends were also shot. 3 days later, a Palestinian teenager, Saeed Odeh, was shot and killed by Israeli soldiers. His friend was also shot. The soldiers were on a manhunt to find Yehuda's murderer, who is still on the run. Do you notice a difference here? One is state-sponsored violence that is wholesale advocated for. The other one is a random fucking psycho. That's the difference.